Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 4 of the Hotel Management English class. Today we will be looking at the second part of Unit 2, and last week we looked at Part A, which was more about making reservations, and today's lesson is more about the guests arriving at the hotel and checking in. So before we get on with today's lesson, there are some announcements I would like to make. Online lectures are due to continue until week 6, unfortunately. In-class lessons are due to start in week 7, but this could change. I've been having a few questions about the class assignments. So what I've decided to do with these weekly class assignments is make them count towards your final grade. So each assignment will be given a score, and these scores will now make up your homework score. So if you can remember, in week 1, I told you how we are going to make the grade with attendance scores, participation, homework, and midterm exam and final exam. Well, the 10% for your homework is going to be replaced, and I'm going to use that 10% for your class assignments. Now, I will not be posting the scores on the e-learning website. I only want to use the e-learning website for feedback. The scores I will be keeping in my own spreadsheet. But when you read your feedback, this will give you a very clear idea of your score. So if your feedback says something like, well, you didn't complete anything and all of your answers were incorrect, well, your score is going to be low. However, if your feedback is saying, great job, all of the parts were very well done, your writing was great, then you're going to be getting a very high score. So all of the class assignments I'm going to put together and then give you a grade out of 10%. And as I said, that will replace the homework score. So there will be no other types of homework in the class. Again, if you've got any questions about this, you can just send me a message and ask me. You can now put it up on the Kakao group that we've created last week as well. So again, any questions, and just ask. One other thing, everyone, please check your files carefully before you upload it to the e-learning website. Some files were incorrect, so always just make sure you check before you upload your files. Today's class, again, using the video, there's parts you're going to have to pause the video and you'll do the assignments. And then maybe for the listening parts, you maybe want to rewind and listen again and again. Well, that's what you should do. For today's class, you will need your textbook, Be My Guest, and you will need to download the class assignment and today's lecture presentation. I'm just quickly going to show you them. So the PDF file just has all of today's PowerPoint slides. And today's assignment worksheet, you've got 3 parts to this today. You've got activity 1, which is a listening activity. Part 2 is a conversation, and you have to use these words to fill in the blanks. And part 3, you're going to create your own dialogue for the check-in. So, please download the documents before you start with the lesson. Okay, so we're going to look at some answers from last week's class. I think this is kind of useful, give you an idea of some of the language you maybe should have used. Some of you maybe don't need this because you had all the answers correct, but it's still useful to look at these answers again. So the first part we did last week was about how to say dates. And there was three kind of different ways here. We were looking at giving an exact date. We were looking also at giving a day in the answer and then a kind of general time. So let's look at question 1. What's today's date? So here we're looking for a very specific answer, and we should be following this way of giving it. We can do that by giving the day first, Friday, then the month, April, and then the date, 3rd. So that's one way we can do it. Today is Friday, April 3rd. Now, if you did this on a different day, obviously the date would be different. But we can also move the date before the month as well. Some people might say today is Friday, 3rd of April. So there's some different ways you could have written that, but this is a good way to do it. The day, the month, and the date. Now the next one, what's your day off? Day. So here we're looking for a day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever. So my answer here, my day off is Sunday. I work all other days. So maybe the answer for you was you didn't have a day off. Maybe you study from Monday to Friday and you have a part-time job on the weekends. Well, maybe I don't have a day off. Next one, when is the next national holiday? So we should have looked in our calendar and maybe found the red date in our calendar. So I looked at this and I found that it was this. The next national holiday is Buddha's birthday on Thursday, April 30th. When do you go on holiday? So this is a much more general question. So we're not going to give an exact date here. So I think when we're answering this, giving a season or a month might be kind of good, or a general time. So I said I usually go on holiday in summer. So that's the time I most often go. Maybe your answer would be I usually go on holiday in July, or maybe I usually go on holiday in winter vacation, something like that. But it's a general time. And the last one, when's your birthday? Now, obviously, your day changes every year, so we can't give this for our birthday. So we're just looking to give month and date. So my birthday is on November 18th. So hopefully that part here shows you the different ways we can use days and dates depending on the information that is asked of us. The second part here was to write the email reply to Ms. Sung, and we were given all of the information. We just had to put that into the correct order and then write the email. So I've given an example, and I think this structure that I've shown here is very useful for any type of email reply, starting with Dear, followed by the customer's title, finishing up kind regards, your name, and the hotel you work at. So I think this is quite useful for you to use maybe in other classes as well, or when you go to work in a hotel. This is a good example of the type of email that a customer would expect. So I'll just read through quickly. Dear Ms. Sung, thank you for your email of your reservation changes. We are pleased to confirm your new reservation as follows. Arrival, 15th of July, departure 17th of July. Room type, single room with bath. Room rate, €99 per night. Confirmation, JU15 S2B 393. We look forward to welcoming you on the 15th of July. Kind regards, James Payton, The Globe Hotel. So I think this is a nice template that we could use for our email replies. Okay, the last part, we were creating a dialogue. The dialogue was using some information that I gave that each person should be using. So the receptionist had to ask some questions, and the guest had some information to answer those questions. So your dialogue should have looked something like this. Hello, Globe Hotel, how may I help you? Yes, I would like to make a reservation for the 6th of June. Certainly, may I have your name, please? So that was the first thing. James Payton. Could you spell that for me, please? Yes, that's JAMESPATON. Okay, Mr. Payton, could you tell me what kind of room you would like? So there was another thing we had to ask. Yes, I'd like a double room with balcony. And how many nights will you be staying? 4 nights. Yes, we have a double room with balcony available from the 6th to the 10th of June. That's great. I'd like to book it, please. Certainly, the total price is $600. How would you like to pay? Is Visa okay? Yes, that's fine. Could you give me your card details, please? And then we would go on to the kind of end of the conversation. So hopefully everybody, you had a conversation that looked something like that. We had to ask for the name, for the spelling, type of room, how many nights, and how they would like to pay. So hopefully this helps you. You can look back at your answers and see if they were any different. Okay, we're going to go on to today's lesson about checking in. So, we'll be learning about some polite and impolite expressions. We'll be listening and putting a conversation into the correct order. We'll be then completing a check-in conversation by filling in some spaces. And then you're going to create a check-in dialogue, just like we did last week, except this week you are free to decide what type of dialogue you will be making. So we'll start today. We're going to look at some sentences in your textbook. So this starts on page 14. I've also got a picture on the screen here. We have some sentences. So which sentences are polite and which are not polite? So we've got, hello, can I help you? Do you have a reservation? Hello, what do you want? And your name, please? I'm sorry, the hotel is full. We have nothing for you. So some of these are polite. They're okay to use. Some are not polite or impolite, and they're not really okay to use with a guest. So let's have a look. How many sentences are not polite? Well, I think 2 definitely. This one. Hello, what do you want? What do you want is not a good way to talk to a guest or a customer of any kind. So we can't use this. It's too direct. Also here, we have nothing for you. No, it's too direct. A guest might think you're being impolite. So I think definitely these 2 sentences need to be changed. So let's change them. What do you want? We can change to how may I help you? or what would you like? Especially in a bar situation. If a customer comes into the bar, you might ask them, "Oh, what would you like?" I think maybe if they're coming to reception, "How may I help you?" is better, because we don't really know what they're wanting at that point. "We have nothing for you." No, not good. So a better way to say this: "I'm sorry, but we don't seem to have anything available." A much, much better way to say that than "we have nothing for you." So again, this is something that's going to be important every week in the class. We're always looking to use formal English. It is polite, and it's what guests expect to hear from you. They don't want direct questions. They want you to be using formal English. So let's move on, and we will see some ways to make sentences polite. So it's always a good idea when you're asking for something to use please at the end of the sentence. So rather than saying, "Could you give me your name?" "Could you give me your name, please?" It's always things that guests want to hear. Please and thank you are very, very good to be using. The phrase "would like" is much more polite than want. So what would you like, rather than what do you want? Would you like is better than do you want. So would like is always a nice way to make your sentences more polite. If you can't do something, if the guest is asking you for something that's impossible, don't just say no. We can make it sound much more polite by using "I'm sorry," or "I'm afraid," or "unfortunately." So let's say the guest is saying, "I would like to use the swimming pool, but the time is 10 o'clock and the swimming pool is closed." Well, maybe we would say, "Unfortunately, the swimming pool closed 1 hour ago, so you can't use it just now." So that's much, much nicer to say that to guests rather than just telling them no, it's impossible. So do not use abrupt or informal questions. So again, we kind of talked about this in the other weeks. We don't say, "What's your name? What do you want?" So we think about making these formal questions. "How may I help you?" Would you like a single room? And so on. So again, this is going to be important today. We're going to look at some expressions that are polite, and they are also used in a check-in situation in a hotel. So if we look at them, we've got "Good evening, sir." "Good evening, madam." Very, very formal English, rather than just saying "Hi." "Good evening, sir." "Good evening, madam." "Could you spell that, please?" Again, using please at the end of the sentence is very good. This one is just about confirming. That's a double room with bath and balcony for 3 nights. Another one, nice and formal. "Could you sign here, please?" Giving information or giving something. "Here's your key." Giving them information. "It's room 401 on the 4th floor. I'll call a porter." So you're going to hear these expressions being used. We're going to listen to a conversation where somebody is checking in. So, I need to move. Everyone, just listen just now, and we'll hear the conversation.
2.7. Exercise 1.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, madam.
Good evening. We have a reservation. The name's Bouvier.
Could you spell that, please?
Bouvier.
Thank you. Bouvier. Yes, So that's a double room with bath and balcony for 3 nights.
That's right.
Could you just sign here, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, sir. Here's your key. It's on the 4th floor, room 401. I'll call a porter.
Thank you.
Enjoy your stay.
Okay, so we heard in the conversation a lot of this language being used, and the receptionist sounded very, very polite, very kind voice, and dealt with the guest very, very well. In the listening, we had Mr. Bouvier, and you maybe could tell by the way he spoke which country he was from. And the name as well, Bouvier. So hopefully you could hear he was from France. He was speaking with a very strong French accent. So we're going to listen to that same conversation again. However, this time we have an activity to do. So everybody should have their worksheets ready, because we're going to be listening to the conversation, and we're going to put these sentences into the correct order and then say whether it was the guest or the receptionist that said each of the sentences. So we can see again here. Yeah, so we've got our receptionist, we have one. That is the first sentence that is spoken. Good evening, sir. Good evening, madam. So you're going to listen to the conversation for a second time. Listen carefully and try to hear what is the second, right? Number 2. What is the third, and so on. So I will play the conversation again. You will write the answers in your assignment worksheet. So everyone, let's listen.
2.7.
Oh, sorry.
Exercise 1.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, madam.
Good evening. We have a reservation. The name's Bouvier.
Could you spell that, please?
B-O-U-V-I-E-R.
Thank you. Bouvier. Yes. So that's a double room with bath and balcony for 3 nights.
That's right.
Could you just sign here, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, sir. Here's your key. It's on the 4th floor, room 401. I'll call a porter.
Thank you.
Enjoy your stay.
Okay, so hopefully you could have heard the correct information. Now, it was a little bit quick, so at this point, maybe you want to rewind the video and listen again so that you can find all of the answers. So remember, we need, is it the receptionist or the guest? And we need the part of the conversation. So if you want, rewind, keep playing the conversation until you can get all of the answers. Okay, we're going to look at a different conversation now. If you go on to page 15, you will see a conversation between a guest and a receptionist. And it's a similar type of conversation, but this time we're going to do a different activity. So you're going to look at the conversation, and you're going to look at the words up here. So we've got 7th floor, spell, sign here, a reservation, 6 nights, thank you, here's your, single room, your name, call him, good evening, right, would you like, and good evening. So these are the words and phrases that we need to put into the spaces in the conversation. So we're starting here with the receptionist. Something, madam. What could it be? Then we've got the guest. What are they saying here? So again, this is something you're going to be doing in your assignment worksheet. If we look at part 2, you will see we've got the words here, we have the conversation here. So everybody should try to complete the conversation using the words in this box. So again, this is a good time for everybody to pause the video and complete the assignment in your worksheet. Okay, so I think those two activities here are going to be very useful for you when it comes to the final part of today's lesson, because you are going to create your own check-in dialogue. And hopefully you can use some of the language from part 1 and part 2 to help you create your own dialogue. So in the dialogue, you can use your own name, or you can make up some names of people. But you need to think about the dates, what floor the room is on. So you're free to kind of create this, but you should try to use similar language to that used in the 2 example conversations. And especially, I want to see a lot of formal language being used. So no direct questions. You should be trying to use a lot of sentences ending with please, would you like, could you tell me, may I have, all of those formal types of English. So, everyone, you should pause the video just now, and you have got a big space in your worksheet. You've got R for receptionist, G for guest, and I would like you to create your own dialogue in this space in your worksheet. So, everyone, pause the video just now and write your dialogue. Okay, so let's do a quick review of things we have done today. We started with some polite and impolite expressions. Then we had to listen and put the check-in conversation in the correct order. We then looked at another check-in conversation and completed that with filling in the spaces. So these 2 conversations really gave you a lot of the language that you need in a check-in situation. And then hopefully we've used that language to create your own check-in dialogue. And I'm looking forward to reading all of those. So please remember, everyone, to upload your assignment files to the e-learning website. Please check the files before you upload them. Next week, week 4's class is going to be about the hotel bedroom. We're going to be talking about things we can find in the bedroom. We'll be using there is and there are to describe items. We'll be describing location using prepositions of place, things like next to, above, or on, these kinds of words. And you're going to be designing your own hotel bedroom and describing where the things are. So that's going to be in next week's class. So for today, everybody, thank you very much for listening. Remember, if you have any questions, you can send them in the group chat on Kakao, or you can send me a private Kakao Talk message, send me an email. So anything that you're having trouble with in today's lesson, please just ask and I can help you. So have a good week, everyone, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.